things I do admire about her writing is how she often gets into dialogue. We saw this on Us with Jordan Peele. He's also an expert at this. Let's look on page 15 to understand this a little further. This is outside the office building on the terrace. And Rammy is out there in her coat and she's smoking. And then Samuel comes up and he asks for a light, which is a pretty bold move for an intern. And she gives him a light. He lights a cigarette, hands it back. And then they're sort of like smoking in silence. And then he finally says, in a kind way, we see that parenthetical, "I don't like Christmas, do you?" So instead of jumping into what he really wants to say and what we, progress the story, now we have a way to help us understand the characters a little more, humanize the characters. She thinks about the question after a beat. They start talking at the same time. They talk over each other. So you have the dual dialogue columns here. "I have no issue with it," she says. "I know what I read," he says. And then "Oh, sorry, you go, that sort of thing. But what's interesting here is he's about to tell her something that he read. And she's about to go on about Christmas and why she doesn't have an issue with it. And she's probably going to say she has kids and she likes it. But then it gets to the meat of the conversation. The true dialogue is when he says, "Oh, by the way, you're my mentor." I think a lot of writers would have skipped over that, had him come out, ask for the light. Then they're sitting there in silence. And then, "Hey, did you know you're my mentor?" All right. That works. It moves the scene forward. But what we have here is a lot more interesting. Now we know a little bit more about the characters. We understand the tension between them, a lot of the nonverbal things that are going on. So bravo there. I really enjoy that. And one of the things that Reijn does very, very well is the raw emotion that is inside the dialogue. She doesn't over-explain things with her characters. She allows us to think for ourselves with the dialogue. Now, with the action lines, she tells us what they're feeling and thinking often. But with the dialogue, it's a lot of... It's not over mysterious, but it's also not giving everything away. We see a good example of that in the kitchen here when Samuel shows up at the house with his girlfriend and Rammy doesn't like it. Rammy says, "Why are you here with her?" So there's a pause there. And he says, "We see each other." Now he's always challenging her. She says, "What does that mean?" And you can see on the page, it's a really simple line, but of course, Nicole Kidman nails it. It's delivered beautifully. And he says, "What did you want me to say to her?" "No, I can't come with you because," and she interrupts him, says, "Are you dating her? She can't help herself anymore." And then his response, which again is pro-level response in screenwriting, rather than saying, getting into some sort of argument about the date and all that, he flips it on her and he says, "Isn't that man in the living room your husband?" And then she loses it. She goes forehead to forehead with him, which happens a lot in the screenplay. I think 3 times people are pushing foreheads like offensive, defensive linemen. But that's a way to be physically aggressive without being assaulting someone. I guess it could be an assault depending on how it's done. But here she's pressing her forehead to his forehead and she has just had enough. And this goes on and on until the girlfriend walks in. It's a great scene. Here's what it looks like on the film.
What are you doing here?
What do you mean?
Why are you here? You with her?
We see each other.
What does that mean? What?
Well, what did you want me to say? No, I can't come.
Are you dating her?
Isn't that man in there your husband?
I don't want you seeing other women. I don't want you. Why? Why? Hey!
Everything okay?
Another example of powerful, raw dialogue that is authentic is also here between Rammy and Samuel on page 39, where she, once again, is giving away her power. But at the same time, she has this deep drive to be motherly, to take care of people. And she is concerned about his feelings and that she may be taking advantage of him, which she is. We could call it a mutual take advantage of relationship. If she were a man, there'd be no question that she's taking advantage of him. But that is what makes this screenplay and film so unique, is taking that and flipping it on its head and forcing us to see things through a different lens. Anyway, it's a really good scene. Here it is in the film.
You're very young. I don't want to hurt you.
Hurt me? think I have power over you because I could make one call and you lose everything. What, does that turn you on when I say that?